How's it going, Bat family? Welcome back to a brand new The Batman 2 discussion series video, but also today we're chucking in a little bit of a news update at the beginning, because not only are there a couple of rumors, if you will, that I want to debunk, because I've been getting a lot of you asking my opinions about a couple of things of which we're going to get into, but also a brief update on the Penguin. So we're going to dive into that right away, but we will get into the usual discussion series. And if you're brand new here, what we do is we take the comments from you guys, theories, speculations about the Batman 2, the Batverse in general, just kind of ideas that we want to see come to fruition, improvements, you know, things that we're interested in. We just kind of collect it all here and discuss it, because we love this world that Matt Reeves is building. So first of all, for the news part, I just wanted to chuck this bit in here. Don't forget that Riddler Year 1, written by Paul Dano himself, and the artwork done by Stevan Subic, is coming out October 25th. I will be doing a review on this channel, getting into, well, just the overall issue 1, but also my thoughts on what it shows about Gotham, Riddler's mind, the Easter eggs in the comic, because we already had a preview for the comic where you can see the Drifter in the background as Riddler is getting the Gotham subway, which is awesome. So I'm sure there's going to be all kinds of things like that. So of course, stay tuned on the channel, because that canonical backstory to the Riddler, of which we're going to see some technically Year 1 Batman as well, will be coming out October 25th. But now let's get on to the debunking side of things. Now, I trust maybe quite a few of you have already figured this out for yourselves by now, but as I said, I'm still getting comments saying, hey Boba, what do you think of part of the script for the Batman 2 already being teased? Now, as we know, Matt Reeves and Mattson Tomlin is writing the Batman Chapter 2. They're actually undergoing the writing process for the movie right now, and we had Mattson Tomlin, and I'm just going to pull it up on my screen here, post this initially. As you can see, it says cut to black, the end, but at the very top, you can kind of make out USH, and people are thinking, oh, Hush, right? You know, because we had Thomas Wayne pay hush money to Edward Elliot, of whom would be Thomas Elliot's father in theory in Matt Reeves' universe. And of course, rightfully so, as a part of our speculation on the channel as well, some fans have thought that technically Thomas Elliot could have grown up without a father. That would somewhat ring true to the trauma that Matt Reeves brings to every character, from that of the Penguin. Selina has her own trauma, Batman has his own trauma, Riddler has his own trauma, and they all go down their different paths, and this would be Hushes in this universe. But that doesn't make this screenshot Hush or even the Batman 2 script related, and that is because we got another screenshot from Mattson Tomlin quote tweeting that previous script screenshot, and as you can see, he is writing the script for, or has written the script for, Berserker, which I believe Keanu Reeves is looking to direct. So don't really look at it beyond that. That's more or less where that story ends. It would be absolutely crazy for them to be in the script writing process and then to tease that. Alright, so lastly for the news, before we dive into the discussion series part of this video, we have some Penguin updates, and that is that Discussing Film have said that we have learned that Craig Zobel is in talks to executive produce and direct an undisclosed amount of episodes for the Batman HBO Max spin-off series, The Penguin, starring Colin Farrell. Although I do want to note that their tweet linking the article says that Craig Zobel, mayor of Easttown, is officially directing the first 2 episodes of The Penguin for HBO Max, which I believe is them posting their own exclusive article, but also The Hollywood Reporter added onto this saying that they have exclusively learned that he's directing 2 episodes, but Discussing Film originally broke the story about this director being attached to the project in the first place. So they go on to say that while Craig Zobel is currently signed on as executive producer of The Penguin on HBO Max, sources say discussions are still ongoing as to the number of episodes he can direct, as well as his availability for when the DC production commences in early 2023. Zobel is well regarded within HBO for his recent directing work on Mayor of Easttown, which won him 2 Emmys in the Outstanding Limited Series or TV Movie category. In addition to his Emmy recognition, his work on Mayor of Easttown also led him to receive 1 DGA Award nomination and 1 PGA Award win. Now, Lauren LaFranc is showrunning, if you remember, and I believe they're targeting, they say early 2023, but I think it's been said January they're looking to shoot, maybe February, but I think it is possibly January. Library in New York City. And, you know, the news about this director in particular, if you've seen Mayor of Easttown, by the way, a really, really good show. So it's pretty interesting to note that Craig Zabel is directing at least 2 episodes. Could direct more, but at least the Hollywood Reporter was saying for now it's 2. Let me know what you think of this. I can't wait to start covering this show. You know, my most anticipated thing about The Penguin isn't only Colin Farrell and how it bridges the first movie to the second movie, because ultimately, with Carmine Falcone dying, it's left a power vacuum. All of the cesspool gangs and wannabe kingpins in Gotham are going to want to fill that throne seat, and Oz, ultimately, like his comic book counterpart, will most likely end out on top as Kingpin. As I always say, will likely own the name that is viewed as derogatory, the Penguin, and take it on as his name within Gotham. Be like, yeah, actually, you know what, call me Penguin. And that might happen by the end of the series. A bit cliche of a prediction there. Another thing, of course, is just to get back into Matt Reeves' Gotham universe. Honestly, the living, beating heart of Gotham, yes, we saw it in the Batman. I'm not going to say we're going to see it in a whole different way, but just to kind of get into the heartbeat of it through the criminal underworld, through Oz's gang, through Oz's perspective, seeing the very people that Batman fights during year 1 and year 2. I mean, granted, we saw him fight the Train Gang and Riddler. He would have come up against people like this, but now we're going to be walking throughout the streets with these gangs and people Penguin is up against, trying to get that throne that Falcone left behind. So that's going to give us, honestly, such a gritty take, and also supposedly R-rated take in this Penguin show, which makes me incredibly happy. So let me know what you think of everything we've discussed in the news aspect of this video, but let's now move on to that beautiful discussion series. I just want to say thank you, by the way, for all the support on this series, because I clearly love the Batman as a character, but also this universe and vision that Matt Reeves has taken. So the fact that this series still gets so many views, but of course you get the odd comment every now and again like, oh, this is all just theories, this is all complete BS, and people like that fail to realize that's entirely what this is about. The fact that there's still such attention for a series of discussion just shows how much passion and how much of a community is here for this. So honestly, thank you for just showing up and enjoying taking part in this discussion with me. I love the interaction back and forth, going and taking replies from the previous episode into the next episode of the discussion series like we're doing today. Just thank you again, and obviously we'll be doing this and things will be getting much more tangible as we move into the production of The Penguin and The Batman Chapter 2. Like, this is ongoing between each film, obviously not posting every week, but kind of tiding us over until the next big chunk of stuff comes our way. And I just realized, by the way, I'm all Batmaned up today. I've got the Batman cap on, I've got a Batman shirt on, and I got a new mug that I actually got for my birthday. And as you can see there, so fueled by coffee for this discussion series video. Sorry if I'm speaking 1,000 words per minute, but that's got something to do with this. But let's start off with Jay, and this is somewhat of a reply to our discussion in the last discussion series video. And because we spoke about Mad Hatter, and Jay said, Mad Hatter, and this has got 127 upvotes on that previous video, is such an underrated villain. The visuals with him in the movie would be insane. I would hope for something like the Arkham City Mad Hatter mission or Arkham Knight DLC fight, which I believe I showed some of that gameplay in the previous video. I agree. Again, it's kind of what a lot of us fall in love with Scarecrow, but also Mad Hatter, and I think there was a few comments that say about the similarities there, and that is true. Like, you can't really do both Scarecrow and Mad Hatter, I think, in this trilogy. I do agree with that, because they both rely on something trippy in the visual medium, if you will. Mad Hatter's hypnotizing aspects and gadgets and whatnot to Scarecrow's fear toxin, or even if you want to look at the example of what Jay's saying here of the Arkham City Mad Hatter mission or Arkham Knight, it is kind of that trippy Wonderland experience, and I would love to see Pattinson in that myself. This is none of us saying that Mad Hatter is going to be a trilogy villain coming up in the second or third movie. As I always say, you could get multiple villains, at least 2. Like, you know, obviously we had Riddler as the main poised up guy, but then you had freaking Penguin and also Carmine Falcone. Like, it was that those are 2 prolific characters, so never rule out another villain, even Rogue's Gallery villain, having a bit of a Colin Farrell the Batman 1 screen time, so around 10 to 14 minutes, whatever it was. Without delving into this too much, because I got quite into it in my previous video, so I do recommend checking that out if you want to dive into the Mad Hatter take on things in this universe. I do agree, Mad Hatter would be certainly an interesting way to go with things in the Reeves universe. Probably unlikely to happen, just that's my intuition here, saying that out of the other villains Reeves has to pick from to ground to what he says. It's an interesting challenge for him to take on, like how do we ground a character like Mr. Freeze when he was saying that particular paragraph and bring it into our universe. But then again, you know, even though I'm saying this about Mad Hatter and how Reeves would do that with him, I just would clone that sentence of mine onto any Rogues Gallery character. I would just love to see him bring anyone to life. It's such an easy cop-out answer to say, but I really do mean that. So Rock Killingan says, I believe that as the first trilogy goes, the first tested Batman's mind, the second will test his strength, and the third his spirit. That could probably give us an idea of the rogues we could have on each movie. And it's such a basic observation, but a brilliant one. And I don't mean any hate with that. It's just, it's true. You could be onto something there. I'm not sure they're like specifically going to look at it like, right, the first movie is going to be this, second movie is going to be his strength, the third is spirit, but that probably is somewhere in the creative process, of course. I wanted to bring this up to open the floor to you. What do you think of Rock Killingan's comment here? Do you believe that could be what they're going with and how it could give us a clue to what villain could test Batman in the second movie? Because it is true, the first movie could be seen as his mind. The second, you could argue, if only if it is labeled as, you know, strength in a broad sense of a theme, you could say what a lot of people have been saying with Mr. Freeze. There's still the detective stuff there, there's all kinds of other stuff, but it would be a bit hands-on, so it would require a bit more strength and using Batman's capabilities with physicality, gadgets. And then the third, his spirit, of course, but it could be in any order. Plus, you could apply multiple villains to the themes of each movie. That is another thing, because you could argue that Scarecrow could break Batman's spirit through reintroducing fear into Batman. One of those lines from Pattinson is that he's basically conquered fear in the movie, or at least he thought he had conquered everything other than the fear of being afraid to lose somebody that he loves again in that way. But what if he's reintroduced to fear in a way that he didn't even comprehend, and that is Scarecrow's fear toxin? That could arguably be spirit, but then spirit could be introduced with a whole other villain, of course. So if you want to have a bit of extra homework set from me in the comment section, choose who you would reply for each theme here that Rock Killingan put down as, let's just say, first movie, mind, Riddler, so the second one, strength. Who would you choose? Third one, spirit. Or of course, if you have a slightly different order of themes, so you don't agree with the second one being about strength, maybe you think that's going to be the third one, categorize it in your own way there, and then respond with said Rogues Gallery villain. Next up is Taup? Pigeon? I don't know. But either way, what if the contact lenses, and I know we keep going back to this, but people, this is clearly sparking quite an interesting discussion. Like the white eyes will always forever be one of the hot trending topics of the Batman universe. And I gave my thoughts on it kind of recently, and it seems the discussion keeps flowing. So I want to expand on it a little bit. So what if the contact lenses are designed like cat eyes? In the dark, his contacts are translucent so we can see his normal eyes. Because, just to interject here, my ultimate thoughts on this, if you're brand new here, is that I do ultimately choose seeing the eyes of Pattinson / Bruce because it conveys emotion. Yes, I acknowledge you can still get emotion through Batman performance with white lenses, but ultimately, I still choose seeing the eyes, like actually seeing the capability of tears to well up or whatever, expressiveness without the lenses. But we're getting suggestions now as to how you can still maintain that with white eyes. So contacts are translucent, so you can still see the eyes, but if a light was shined directly at his face, his contacts glow like how a cat's eyes would, and they could say this is a side effect for having night vision, which makes sense, added to the contacts. Love to know your thoughts on this. So I agree. I never rule that out because I think we've had suggestions months and months and months back with how, and I think maybe even other comments of the recent weeks with people saying maybe the contacts could come down just in specific situations like fighting to avoid any kind of debris or, I don't know, spray. White lenses could come down. It could show thermal. It could show night vision. Yeah, that makes the most sense, to be honest. If he's fighting at night, if he had some kind of lenses come down, he could fight with those coming down. But when he's, you know, talking to Gordon, looking around, reacting to people, he doesn't have to have them down all the time. So I'm completely down for white lenses being there for a specific purpose. It's just for me, I don't want the humanity behind the eyes of the cow to be taken away. I completely understand those who are absolutely adamant that it won't be, even with white eyes, but I still disagree to an extent that you still get more of a performance when you see Robert Pattinson's actual irises rather than having 24/7 white lenses. But white lenses applied in situations that make sense, 100% okay with. There are a million ways to utilize that, just like how Pigeon has labeled it here. So like night vision, or when light shines directly in his face. I do agree that the existing contact lenses that he's already got, that would have been a brilliant way to do that, because you can see his eyes, for example, when he's inspecting the mayor's body, he's recording the whole time. But yeah, in certain shots of light, if they made those glow white, so it eliminated the eye color of Bruce Wayne, and it just kind of just made it white to match the rest of the eyeball, that would be so cool. And I definitely think that's something they should consider at the bare minimum, because that means most of the time you're seeing his normal eye color, you're seeing his irises, but if a light shined in it, that it just got rid of the black pupil, the color of the irises, and it just matched the rest of the edge of the eyeball in specific shots or whatever, that would be so cool. But then obviously, yes, you could expand upon it with night vision, protection, and all kinds of things. All right, so now we have Olivia B. Hey Boba, always love hearing your discussions. Thank you so much, Olivia. A villain I would love to see in the Reeves verse is Poison Ivy. It wouldn't be too much of a stretch to make a grounded version of her character, since in her OG comic depiction she wasn't a metahuman. I think Reeves could do a lot in his grounded approach by exploring the potential of biological warfare with Ivy's toxins used against the city, and if he were willing to take her at a slightly more fantastical angle, her character would allow for some really macabre body horror, what with her turning people into plants and stuff. Fun video as always. So yeah, I do agree there. So I know I've said this a while ago, but I'm actually going to get my arse in gear and do this soon for an additional series on the channel, which is going to be specifically catered to kind of offering decent content, if I do say so myself. So these discussion series are fluent, and I will get specifically into what you're saying in a second, but you've reminded me to kind of slightly announce something with regards to, I want to do a Rogues Gallery adaptation series in a way that won't be so much biased from my desires and what I want, but more of a series exploring each Rogues Gallery villain in the way that I truly feel Matt Reeves would adapt it. I'm not saying that's how he will adapt it, but I already have ideas behind Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, certain other characters. So if you're interested in seeing additional videos every now and again on the channel, diving quite deeply into, I don't know what will be titled, something like the Batman Rogues Gallery Villain Adaptation Series, Poison Ivy. And I'll get into exactly how I think, to my knowledge and intuition, I really do feel the most realistic way that Matt Reeves would tackle that villain if he so decided to choose that villain for the second or third movie, or if that never happens in Earth 2 or Earth 64 or parallel world or whatever, he did choose that villain over the villains we actually do get in this Earth's future, if you know what I mean. I've been meaning to do these videos for ages. It's just, you know, we've got a long time at the end of the day until we get more the Batman 2 stuff and when we actually do find out the villain. So let me know if you want to see that on the channel. I think I might make the first video about Mr. Freeze, maybe Poison Ivy. But yes, I do agree. Poison Ivy, I know it's blasphemy to some people to say you can't do her without the, you know, metahuman-esque aspects to her character, or her casting her hand out, an actual freaking ivy plant bursting through the tarmac of the road or whatever, but you can. And that, I'm telling you now, believe me or not, I don't have any secret scoops on this or whatever, but I'm telling you now regardless, that if he did Ivy, it wouldn't be like that. It would be in a similar way to what Olivia is saying, and this is a little preview into my video. It would be Pamela Isley and her background and her using her knowledge of plants to bring about some kind of warfare in the city. Maybe, yeah, biological, maybe a bit of eco-terrorism-y kind of stuff. Who knows specifically, but I have some very specific ideas that I want to save for that video, so I won't get into it too much here. But they can make it insanely accurate Poison Ivy and not too boring or bland or realistic adaptation. Why can't they do fantastical? I think certain methods of what I'm going to get into with Ivy will walk the line of fantastical with certain chemical agents that she will use to maybe enhance plant life, but it just won't be metahuman chemicals that she gives off to her plants that allow them to grow like Jack the Beanstalk kind of thing. But still, don't let that dissuade you from thinking that they can't achieve a really cool Poison Ivy in this series. So Olivia B, I certainly agree. It would allow for some really cool body horror stuff, very Swamp Thing-esque if you've seen a DC Universe series that also aired on the CW in a rerun. I've got some ideas and I can't wait to hopefully get into that series really soon, but do give me some encouragement if you want to see that on the channel as a bonus video series to this discussion series. So now we have Cooper Tyrell saying, I definitely think that the Scarecrow or Dr. Hugo Strange should be the main antagonist in the Batman 2. Someone to psychologically challenge Bruce Wayne / Batman, considering that he now knows about his mother's past incarnation at Arkham Asylum, leaving him to question his actions and Batman and whether or not he's actually insane. I also think that Harvey Dent should appear in the second film too, but he shouldn't become Two-Face just yet. Starting off with the latter there, 1000% agree. Not that I'd be disappointed, but I just, you know, I'm telling you, Matt Reeves, you have to introduce Harvey in the second movie as just District Attorney. He doesn't have to be Two-Face, like, at all even. Give him similar screen time to Colin Farrell, like 10, 12 minutes, I don't mind. Even if we don't get Two-Face in the third movie, just the world building there would be fantastic, would allow for relationships to be formed between him and Bruce, because I do believe that Bruce will be stepping out into the public eye a little bit more, not in the way that I think the large majority think, proper playboy, but more in like, okay, I'm gonna actually take up that conversation with Bella Real that she was trying to get me to do. She wanted to actually have a meeting with him about being more like his parents, philanthropic, and what he can do for the city. I believe we're gonna see that meeting in the second movie, and we're maybe gonna have Harvey Dent come in. That is 3 good people, as it currently stands, trying to improve the city. Flooding, there's so much opportunity there for the pillars of Gotham, the new appointed mayor, DA, Bruce Wayne, who could literally do more. I've said all that before, just wanted to say it again. Now, as for Scarecrow or Hugo Strange, that's been quite a discussion for the past few videos. But what we haven't tackled on here, and what I liked about this comment, is the psychological challenge in what Cooper says here, considering that he now knows about his mother's past at Arkham Asylum, leaving him to question his actions as Batman and whether or not he's actually insane. Now, that's something really interesting. It would be pretty cool if Matt Reeves, I'm not saying this should be like a whole massive plot line in the movie, but even some kind of reference or self-doubt. And I think Batman knows that what he's doing, and this has been very much so explored in the comics. Like, Batman isn't the most mentally healthy person at all. Like, I shouldn't need to say that. Some iterations have got quite into, as I've said, the somewhat split personality disorder side of things. So knowing now that he never knew before, like, his face was so shocked seeing photos of his mother being dragged back into Arkham, that he must look at it like, wait, oh, I know what I'm doing. I have a mission and I believe in it, to the, you know, I'm not scared of dying for it to help Gotham. But I've never actually considered that I could have had some kind of hereditary passing down aspects from that of my mother that I guess awoke there upon their death and there on out. Even if they didn't explore Bruce Wayne's, I don't know if I would label it as self-doubt into his own mental health status, but some kind of exploration in, okay, since he's found out about, you know, the whole Edward Elliot bribing thing through Thomas Wayne, obviously Thomas Wayne very naively didn't think he would get in so deep with Falcone that he thought Falcone would just kind of shut him up but not kill him. But also finding out about his mother's time at Arkham, multiple stays at Arkham, that maybe he wanted to look into that a little bit more. Maybe in the second movie, in conversations with Alfred, he asks Alfred a bit more about it. What was it that my mom was struggling with? How many stays did she have there? Again, with a movie that has so much to accomplish and leans so much on a heavy villain, even side characters in the first movie like Penguin had plots that had to do with the main villain, of course, El Rata Alada. He thought that it could be the Penguin. He went to him. That's how he picked up the photo of the mayor and who he was seeing at the time, but then he saw Selina. So everyone's connected, so you can't always spend too much time on like a whole separate plot of, hey, like, let's explore my mother's mental health history files at Arkham or something like that. But some way of weaving something like that in would be good character story that I would like to see. But if you have any expanded thoughts on that you think could make it really relevant to the second movie, do let me know. Now, this next comment from Enigma Void introduced me to the idea of a plot that I don't think I've actually ever considered before. before, but could really be, especially as we're getting more Bruce Wayne inevitably coming out of his shell. We still don't know to what degree, even though I'm quite insistent that even though he's going to come out a bit more, he's still going to be a bit timid and shy and uncomfortable, but he knows he needs to do it. He's not going to be as reluctant saying to Alfred, oh, I don't care about any of that in the first movie. He will be going out, but how about more of a Bruce Wayne story, which I do think is a natural progression. We're still going to get tons of Batman screen time as boasted in the first movie, like 85% of the movie or more is Batman in his suit, but obviously we're going to get more Bruce Wayne. But how about more of a Bruce Wayne plot? So Enigma Void says, great content as always, Boba. Your ideas are awesome. Thank you. You guys and your ideas are awesome as well. I think you've said before that you don't think corruption should be a main part of the next movie. I have said that before. Not that I'm not against corruption, but Court of Owls, doing that again in the second movie after just having corruption with multiple pillars behind the scenes in kind of a Court of Owls-esque way, obviously not Court of Owls, it would just be too much regurgitation. Not against the Court of Owls, let me make that clear. But what I just said somewhat speaks for itself. Enigma goes on to say, but what would you think of Wayne Enterprises' corruption being the thing connecting Gotham's underworld, the main villain and Bruce's character arc together? We don't know much about Wayne Enterprises in the Batverse yet, so what if after the Wayne's deaths, it fell into the hands of Gotham's corruption? The next movie should definitely be more Bruce-centered and focus of his character arc of retaking control of his family's legacy. And I think it would be a great way to involve it in the plot if both Batman and Bruce find links between the mob/villain and Wayne Enterprises, and then both try to take down Wayne Enterprises in organized crime, Batman, and in public Bruce. Wayne Enterprises' corruption could also have had a hand in the origin of the main villain, Victor Fries, Jervis Tetch, or even use the villain against Bruce, Tetch, Clayface to discredit him. Love the videos, man. Also, Tim Roth should play Mad Hatter. He'd be perfect, and he deserves to be in a good superhero movie. So yeah, going on about everything you just said there, I'm not saying it will be exactly like that, but I do love the idea that as a part of Bruce's scenes, that we do see him go up with Alfred a bit more, because Alfred has literally been holding the reins to the point of where even with Alfred doing everything he could, he says, if you let this continue, it won't be long before you've nothing left. And he's like, I don't care about that. He's like, you don't care about your family legacy. This is my family legacy. But as Enigma says, Batman and his mission to do Batman, yes, can be seen as continuing his family legacy, but also Wayne Enterprises and everything his parents built is something Bruce will come in to realize, if he hasn't already by the end of the first movie, that he needs to be more involved in. So adding some kind of link, I think, would be a really cool way of incorporating, or in somehow and in some way they go back to Wayne Enterprises. I'm not sure if corruption would be, you know, the very thing they use, like Wayne Enterprises and the board is corrupt. The Gotham kind of did something like that, which was pretty cool, the TV show, with how Bruce, as a kid, was getting more involved in the show at Wayne Enterprises, and he found out that all kinds of shady things were going on. Hugo Strange, Indian Hill, that was being overlooked by Wayne Enterprises. So if there was some more things that are Bruce Pattinson in Matt Reeves' Batverse identified about Wayne Enterprises, and again, you could actually link this to so many Rogues Gallery villains in the second movie or the third movie or whatever they tie in this, as what Enigma is saying here, more of a Wayne Enterprises plot. It just makes maybe more sense to do it in the second movie if Bruce is coming out of his shell more, coming into the company a little bit more, that as he uncovers some stones, that you could argue a familiar character, maybe with a name of that of matches up to a Rogues Gallery villain, has something to do with it, or maybe their own origin links to their own disdain of Wayne Enterprises, maybe whatever's been going on there, they've been affected by it, which would be the pattern that Matt Reeves follows. Like the Riddler, he speaks a lot of trauma in how there's still connections there, even if somewhat indirect, to Bruce, to the larger family picture, if you will, of the Waynes. I don't think every Rogues Gallery villain, by the way, before someone comments it, has to be linked somehow to Bruce, his parents, Wayne Enterprises. They could be completely independent. But even if it's a minor thing where it's like Dr. Jonathan Crane and his research was funded by Wayne Enterprises or something like that, and Bruce is like, how could we ever let my company get to a point of where they're sponsoring someone like Crane or Hugo Strange and whatever facility he's got going on out there to create fear toxin or experiments in Arkham. Maybe he's horrified. There's so much potential there that could be done in a much more written, smart way of thinking about this than whatever I'm coming out with from the top of my head here. So I just think ultimately with what Enigma Void came up with here is a potential plot element we could see, even if in a very minimal way. So as always, what I often do here, I leave the floor open to you. What ideas can you guys contribute to with the natural and expected? And I don't often recommend expecting anything of future films, but I do think it's a safe assumption to say and make that the more we get Bruce, perhaps the more we will get Wayne Enterprises and him, even if initially reluctantly, or cooperating with Alfred a bit more, with the board members and whatever the heck's going on there. What do you think could be done there with that plot of Bruce Wayne? Because anytime I've thought about Bruce Wayne and seeing more of him come out of his shell in future movies, let's say the second one, I've always thought of him, the mayor, the new DA, Harvey Dent and whatnot, but I've never thought about Wayne Enterprises too much and what larger ripples that could have in the stories to come. So let me know your ideas. I think that just about ends this discussion series video and the little news update we had at the beginning. I'll continue to do those news updates in future videos if there's any tangible stuff, of course, or you can find them in my news roundup videos. If you don't already know, I collect a bunch of news across Marvel, DC, other pop culture realms and put them into a whole big news roundup, and sometimes that includes the Batman news. So as I said, check out that Barry Keoghan story that I mentioned in, I think, the previous one. But more importantly, let me know your thoughts on everything we discussed today. I'm really dying to read your comments in this particular episode. I mean, I read every single episode's comments, but there's a lot to respond to here if you want to take the time to do that. If you got this far, as always, I'm going to provide a hashtag just to prove that you got this far. I love seeing it. So with whatever comment you're going to leave down in that comment section, put the hashtag initially of cruel, poetic, or blind. And I think that's more or less everything. You can support these videos by leaving a like. That really helps these videos out here on the YouTube algorithm. It's always a hard one to conquer, but you guys always help show your support through doing that. And do consider subscribing as well if you want to stay up to date with any new Bat content in the future. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you fellow Bat family members in that next video. Goodbye.